ladies and gentlemen, and you're
Hi.
all welcome to today's session. My name is Yao, and I'm the instructor for today. I think we need to get to know one another. You see, it looks like Darren knows everyone here, but I'm lost at sea. I don't know who I'm dealing with today. So let's just share information about our background so that we know at least everyone's names and what we're all involved in at the minute, and then we'll start. Okay, so I started with myself. I'm sure you can see my full name on the screen, Yaws Adu-Brobey, and you could tell it's a Ghanaian name. I'm Ghanaian, and I'm assuming you're all Nigerian as well. So we're brothers and sisters, we're neighbors. Uh, I'm currently based in the UK. I'm a consultant, business analyst, trainer. Call me whatever you like. I'm a jack of all trades. And currently, apart from my consulting work, I also do this. I deliver training. I assist people who want to become business analysts, and even people who are already business analysts to gain more skills and acquire more certification and deliver what we call good change. Okay, so that's me. And would it be possible for Bola? Is it Deborah? Deborah, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we will move on. Okay.
Okay, good evening,
Yes.
everybody. So my name is Buluwatse Deborah Oyedide. I'm a student. I'm currently a final year student studying statistics in the University of Ilorin, Nigeria. Yes. So well, we are on strike now. So we've been on strike for about 8 months now. So during that time, I decided to get a job, which I did, but it wasn't in line with what I've been interested in. So I quit and decided to focus on my confectionery business and this internship, which I'm really excited to be part of. So I think that's pretty much everything.
Okay. Good. Awesome. So you're studying statistics.
Yes, I am.
Interesting fact is, I really hated statistics when I was doing my undergrad.
Wow.
Oh no, I'm not that guy. I'm not that math guy. I'm not really good at math at all, so I hated it. But I've come to realize that it's a key part of what we do, and it's also part of what we do as humans on a day-to-day basis. So good, you're welcome, Deborah. And
Thank you.
good. God day, God day, God day.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, my
And good
boss.
evening, everybody.
Good. Tell us
My
a
name
little
is
bit about
Godday.
yourself. Yeah.
I'm a business manager. I'm in Abuja, based in Abuja, Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria.
Awesome. Good.
So it's good to be here on this internship. I welcome you on board.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. You're all welcome as well. Good. And Dari, I believe everybody knows Dari. Okay, we all know Dari. So Dari, do not open your mouth. We know you. Also, also, can we have Chidi Ebere?
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Hi. Good.
Okay, my name is Chidebere Anolefo. I'm currently based in Abuja. I would say I'm a fellow. I'm currently a fellow of TFN. TFN is Teach for Nigerian Fellowship Program. And then also an intern here. So nice to meet everyone.
Okay, nice to meet you too. Can we have Tendai? Sorry, I assumed everybody was Nigerian, but Tendai isn't, which is perfect. We have a good mix. Okay, we have a Ghanaian, we have Nigerians, we have Tendai. Tendai, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself? Yes.
Thank you. My name is Tendai, and I'm originally from Malawi, but I live in Botswana. I am a law graduate, and currently part of the team. But it's been exciting to get to know everybody, especially being somebody who isn't Nigerian, but we all feel like one. We're all African, so it's for sure. So it's been a good experience so far. So yeah, thank you.
Good, welcome. Can we also have Akimbo Ali as well? Akimbo Ali. Can you hear me?
Thank you for having me over here. My name is Adu-Brobey Akimbo Ali, as earlier mentioned. I'm a graduate as well. I'm a secondary school teacher, and I'm very, very happy to be here, to be part of this program. Thank you.
Perfect. You're welcome. Good. And Dumola.
Okay. Hello. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening. Good.
Adedumola. I'm a graduate of Obafemi University, Agricultural Economics. I'm happy to be here too.
Okay, we're also happy to see you, although we can't see you physically. All right. Hefziba, sorry if I don't pronounce your name correctly. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, hope everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, I'm Hefziba, and I just finished my master's. I'm currently in the UK, and yeah, I'm not working at the moment, so I thought I should be part of this and just learn one or two things to gain some experience. Yeah.
Yes, very good initiative. Good. And Isra. Isra?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Isra. I'm Sudanese master student. I'm doing master in financial econometrics in Sakarya University in Turkey now. But I graduated from business administration from Sudan. But now I'm master student in second year.
Okay, good. Good to have you too. Also, Muideen. Muideen?
That is another one of my boss there.
Hey.
That is my boss. That won't happen. It won't work.
He's come to
Nigeria, could it work?
He's come to check if we are delivering the class properly.
Yeah, man. As you
guys, I would say you should not pay attention, but listen to me. My name is Muideen. I'm a Scrum Master.
All right.
I'm currently in the project management space, and I'm here to, on Darius' invitation and generosity to get an insight into business analysis.
Okay. Perfect. Good to have you too.
Thanks for having me.
Also, good. Also, can we have Onyinyechi? Onyinye, okay, I don't know if you can hear us, but Victoria, is Victoria there? We have Victoria's iPhone.
Good day, everyone. I'm Victoria Imaga. I graduated in 2018. I'm doing this because, yeah.
Okay, good.
I'm doing this because I'm not working at the moment and I'm just trying to get insight.
Okay, all right, good stuff. Good. Once again, you're all welcome. If I've missed anybody, please. I think we've missed Oluwaseyi. Oluwaseyi, it was not our intention to miss you. I think you just joined. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, Olua?
Okay, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I am Oluwaseyi, and I am an analytics enthusiast.
Wow.
And I stay currently in Ogun State. And at the moment, I'm not employed, but I look out for opportunities via this platform. Thank you.
Okay, good. And I think Omotosho is the last person who hasn't spoken. Omotosho, do you mind telling us about yourself, please? Okay. Well, I don't think she can hear me. But anyway, you're all welcome. Go on, sorry, go on.
I hope you can hear me now.
Oh, yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Omotosho Dele Gabriel. I'm a business and data analyst enthusiast. So I really want to get my career started in data analysis. I'm presently in Lagos. I stay in Lagos. I'm presently I'm presently unemployed. So, but looking for opportunities.
Very good. Good. And I believe everybody would have an opportunity soon. Once again, I'd like to welcome you all into the session. This is the first part of our business analysis fundamentals session. Once again, my name is Yao. Okay, my name is Yao. My full name is Yaws Adu-Brobey, but let's just stick with Yao. And I am happy to be leading this session. Now, may I ask that if anybody is not speaking, can they put their themselves on mute, please? I believe everybody has at the minute. Okay. If you want to ask a question during the session, you have two options. You can send a message via the chat. I believe everybody can see the chat box. Or you could give me a wave and we'll give you the opportunity to speak. Now, this is going to be a 2.5-hour session. We have already gotten rid of about 11 minutes, so we have about 2 hours and 19 minutes. We're going to have one break. It's going to be a very short break, just 5 minutes after our first hour or so. And then we're looking to complete the session at about 7:30 this evening. Forgive me if you're in a different time zone. So this means in the next 2 hours, we should be getting towards completion. Now, this session has two main objectives, okay? One of them is to understand the role of the business analyst, you see, understand the role of a business analyst. And another is to equip all of us with some of the key skills that are required for business analysis work. I believe being here, everybody has an idea of who a business analyst is, what business analysis entails. So what we're going to be doing here, well, it's not going to be only a one-way, communication. It would be nice to also hear your perspectives at certain stages. I'd like to know, what you think, your ideas when we get to certain points. So as much as I'll be doing most of the delivery, I'll also be expecting to get some input from yourselves. The main topics we're going to be discussing today are the business change life cycle, understanding business analysis within the software systems development life cycles, the role of the business analyst as a whole in general. We also look at certain competencies that are required of a business analyst, as well as strategic analysis, because in order to do business analysis work, you need to understand the organizational context, the context within which you're operating, which requires you to understand the strategy, the objectives of the organization as well. We'll talk a little bit about strategy and strategic analysis. And then we'll end the session by discussing the business analysis process model, which is a roadmap or guide for doing business analysis. Good. Now, let's begin by discussing the business change life cycle. I believe everybody here is aware that businesses deliver change via projects. Now, the business change life cycle gives us a framework that shows how change evolves. You see, so first of all, how it originates and then how it evolves through 5 stages. So with this, we're able to know where change comes from, where the conception to deliver change comes from, and the stages through which change goes through to become embedded into what we term as business as usual. Now, the business change life cycle occurs in 5 stages. The first is known as alignment, and then definition, then design, implementation, and realization. You see, I don't expect anyone today to commit these to memory. Rather, what we're going to do is to try and understand what happens at each stage, because we're all working within the business change life cycle, whether we're project managers, scrum masters, business analysts, program managers, etc. If we're not working within the change life cycle now, I believe that at some point in our careers, we would play a key role in the business change life cycle. But what happens in the first stage of the change life cycle, alignment? You see, every business seeks to align. And what I mean by align here is every business seeks to match what they do to what is happening in its environment. You see, today we have COVID, and because of COVID, I'm not able to go out. I've been put on lockdown. Some businesses have had to shut down. Some businesses would have to operate virtually, and so on. You see, there's a lot of change happening. As we're here in this session, there's change happening all around us. But the question is, how are businesses able to, stay on top with all these changes? How are businesses able to stay on top of the changes? It requires alignment. So alignment here requires businesses to study the environment. And in studying the environment, there are two aspects. There's the internal environment, there's the external environment. When we talk of the internal environment, this is the environment within the business. So you have people like me working in an organization, you have the processes that are used, you have the structure of the organization, the culture, etc. It also requires an analysis of the external environment, which is very important. And we say it's important because you see, no business has control over what's happening externally. You see, you have political situations. So you have recently, there was NSAS in Nigeria. There were so many things, the political situation, right? You have economic factors. You have changing and emerging technologies. So it's important that businesses are aware of the internal and external environment so that they can identify any opportunities for change, to improve, etc. And also, if there's anything that's happening that could threaten the existence of the business can take action. Now, usually within the change lifecycle, alignment and definition work hand in hand. They go together. This is because having studied the business environment, something needs to be done. A vision needs to be created, if you like. And the definition is where whatever the business need or whatever the business's problem is defined. So having studied the business environment, let's assume that there's COVID. What will the business do, right? Given that there's COVID around us. Do we have to shift onto a virtual platform and work remotely? All of that would be defined in the definition stage. So we can say that alignment and definition is where the business need is defined, as well as what the business solution is. Whatever we need to do to satisfy that need is defined. So following definition, there will be design. And design is where the business solution is designed, you see? But it's not only design. The aim of designing anything would be to build it, to develop it. So design is the stage where the solution is designed, developed, and possibly tested if it's an IT solution. Following the development and testing, we now need to embed the solution. No solution is a solution until it is implemented. So implementation would require transitioning from the old system, the old process, onto a new, improved one. But you see, implementation does not end the change life cycle. You see, if you want to buy a new shoe and you go into the shop, right? I'm sure if you ask the shop assistant to bring you the shoe, the first thing you do is to try it on. I think you have a reason for trying it, or your reason may be to test whether the shoe is fit for purpose, to test whether your predicted benefit has been met. So in the business context, also important that whenever changes are implemented, whenever solutions are implemented, we look back retrospectively to determine whether the benefits, right, for which the change was implemented has been realized, or whether the business is on track to achieving that, right? And if it's not on track, further actions could be defined for that. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the business change life cycle. And as you can see, it's a life cycle. It's a cycle that never stops because change never stops. Change is constant. So alignment, definition, design, implementation, realization, then back to alignment. So every business seeks to align. Now you would see that at the very top, there's enterprise architecture, business environment, business strategy. This is explaining the fact that whatever change is conceived and embedded needs to be aligned with the business objectives, the business strategy, as well as the enterprise architecture. Enterprise architecture is we can say, the building blocks of a business. You see the structure, the things that need to come together to make the organization function. So think of general architecture. When you think of architecture, you think the makeup of a structure, of a building. So the enterprise architecture, we can say, is the makeup of the business. You see, now some businesses do not plan the architecture, but nowadays many businesses are increasingly planning the architecture. And planning the architecture gives you an advantage because you're able to plan ahead, you're able to have a sustainable business over time, and you're able to quickly respond to any changes that need to occur. But you see, we mentioned that there are several roles within the business change lifecycle. You see, you have the project manager, program manager, etc. You see, but who is a business analyst? The business analyst also works within the business change lifecycle. Would anybody be able to tell us their thoughts on who a business analyst is, or at least what the business analyst does? Here, we're only sharing ideas. We're not, we don't have a wrong or right answer. We're just sharing ideas. So who would like to share with us their thoughts on who a business analyst is? Anyone? Can you all hear me? Hello?
We are hearing you, sir.
Yes, yes. So what do we think, a business analyst is? Don't be shy, guys. Anyone?
I think the business analyst is one that critically looks at business situations and try to profile solutions to challenges as a result of his review.
Okay. Perfect. I like that. I like that you mentioned these two things: business situation and solution. Good. Tolu, do you mind adding something to that for us as well, Tolu?
Okay, I believe a business analyst is someone who is trained to make sense of data and to draw inferences from the analytics drawn from a body of information. So he's able to plan, he's able to forecast, he's able to notice trends, things like that based on existing data. I think so.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for that as well. I think we also have a hand raised by Omotosho. Omotosho, do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Okay. All right. Okay. Deborah, do you want to go ahead, Deborah?
I think a business analyst is someone who identifies business needs in order to provide solutions that deliver value to stakeholders respectively.
Okay, perfect. I like that. I think all our definitions are brilliant. We have one from Deborah as well, who has written in the chat that a business analyst is a person who identifies business needs in order to provide solutions that deliver value to its stakeholders. So all our definitions are perfect. So a word that's or a phrase that is underlying the role of a business analyst is understanding business needs. Okay, understanding business needs. Okay, in order to deliver solutions. Okay, so within that, there's so many branches. In fact, you see, the business analyst role, the scope of the role cuts across about 3 areas. There's the strategic part of the role. So there's strategic analysis. Okay, forgive my spelling. Strategic. Sometimes my spelling just goes anywhere. Strategic analysis. There's business analysis itself. And then there is IT systems analysis. Okay. So the thing about business analysis is it's a broad role. You see, there's the strategic analysis aspect of it, which requires the person within that role to study the business environment in order to define solutions that would fit for the organization. And defining solutions, these could be IT solutions, etc. Many people believe that the role of a business analyst is an IT role, but it isn't. You see, IT falls, you know, there's a part of the role that requires IT. The thing is, the role of the systems analyst has gradually become merged with that of the business analyst. Previously, the systems analyst was only focusing on specifying and analyzing IT system requirements. So if we're developing a piece of software, an app, you know, a piece of technology, the systems analyst will define the requirements. So in doing that, we'll gather the requirement, analyze, etc., and deliver to the developers for that. But that has become embedded within the role of the business analyst. And businesses are increasingly looking for business analysts that have these competencies, these skills as well. Now, the business analysis you see in the middle there is purely investigation. Okay, so trying to understand the given business situation, identifying the root causes of problems, performing some gap analysis, you know, etc., writing business case, and so on. So there isn't only one definition for the business analyst role, okay? But one thing we can understand is that the role requires us to understand a business situation, understand the needs of the business, and then ensure the delivery of good workable solutions that actually meet the needs of the business. Okay, all right. Now we have compiled some of the roles, responsibilities of the business analyst. One of them is that the business analyst investigates business systems. But when we speak of investigating business systems, what is a business system? Let's define a business system. A business system represents all those components that come together, you know, to make any business function or operate. Okay, and we can talk of people, processes, information, technology, the organization, which would have a structure, culture, etc. So a business analyst would investigate these business systems in order to understand that business system, identify its needs, propose solutions, and then implement those solutions. So that's one core responsibility. Another is to identify actions that are required to improve the operations of a business system. Every business system, what I mean by a business system here is an organization. So we're going to use these terms interchangeably. Business system, organization. An organization really and truly is a business system.
Right? Sorry, you stopped sharing your screen.
Oh, have I? Sorry. These things happen. Sorry about that. Sorry. Okay. Can everybody see my screen now? Okay. I believe everybody can see my screen.
Yes, we are seeing it.
Okay. Perfect. Good. So you see, the business analyst identifies actions required to improve operations of business systems. Every business system aims for longevity. And for longevity, you need to be able to respond to change. And to respond to change, you may need to make improvement over time. You see, and the business analyst is key in identifying the areas for improvement and delivering those improvements for that. And in delivering those improvements, it's important that we understand the business needs. So a key part of the business analyst role is to define the business requirements. Now, when we talk of business requirements, they are actually the needs of the business, because every business solution is made up of requirements. So requirements are the makeup of any business solution. To deliver a solution, we need to ensure that the solution reflects or meets the needs of the business. And to do that, we need to gather those requirements. Now, requirements are not only IT system requirements. Requirements can be anything that a business needs, okay? So we all know that if you take the iPhone is made up of requirements. They collated users' requirements in order to build the iPhone. But it's not only technology that has requirements. Businesses may have requirements for creating a new job role, for expanding, you see, for mergers and acquisitions, etc. So whatever the requirements are, it is the business analyst key responsibility to define them. And in defining requirements, there are 3 key things that are done. In fact, there are about 4 or 5. One of them is to elicit those requirements. And what we mean by elicit is to gather. We need to gather the requirements. But everybody, I think somebody is speaking. Let me, if you're not talking, can you put yourself on mute, please, for now? Okay, until it's question time. Good. So we need to gather these requirements. And in gathering the requirements, we're gathering the requirements from the business stakeholders. What do we even mean by stakeholders? A stakeholder is anybody, any individual, any entity that has a vested interest in a project, in an initiative, in any undertaking. For the purposes of this, we're looking at projects, change in general, right? So the business analyst would have to identify these stakeholders for that, right? When we talk of vested interest, this could mean any individual or any party that may be in a position to influence the project, okay? Make decisions on a project. Anybody who can be affected by the changes that will be delivered, you know, as a result of the project, the solution, anybody that's going to use the solution, as well as simply anybody who is involved in a project, okay? So we need to identify these stakeholders. The business stakeholders would be those stakeholders such as the senior managers, the employees, the partners, suppliers, even regulators are stakeholders, because you see, any change that is being proposed must stay within the standards and requirements of regulation. So regulators have a stake, they're stakeholders, because immediately they suspect or find that there's a deviation from these regulations, then they step in and then do the necessary, take the necessary action, you see, right? So business analysts would need to define requirements. And in defining the requirements, we elicit, I mentioned elicitation. Elicitation isn't the only thing, because when gathering requirements, you see, not all requests, if you like, can be taken forward as requirements. The aim of gathering requirements is to define, you see, have a well-defined requirements document that the developers or whoever is delivering the solution is going to, you know, use to develop the solution such that it meets the needs of the business, you see. So elicitation, so we elicit the requirements, and then we would analyze. So the analysis is where we're checking the purity of the requirements, the quality of the requirements. And then having analyzed the requirements, we'll then be able to seek what's it called, validation, to get the requirements signed off, okay? And then we would document these requirements in what we call a full requirement document. Right, I believe the sessions that would come in the future would capture all of these as well. So let's move on. These are not the only roles of the business analyst. There are many additional roles, and depending on the organization you're working in, its needs, right? And the project you're working on, you may have to, you know, carry out some additional activities. Some people refer to the business analyst as a middleman between the business and the IT team, or the middleman between the business and its needs in general, right? So the business analyst can be seen as the go-to person for many things. The business analyst would wear many hats. Sometimes you'd see that certain functions that are core to the role of a project manager are even handled by the business analyst, right? So one of those additional roles is strategy implementation. So here we're not saying that business analysts would single-handedly design and implement strategy. No, some senior business analysts would assist with strategy design and implementation. They would work closely with some strategy consultants and senior managers in designing and implementing strategy. Most people think of business analysts as, you know, operating on the solution end of things, but many business analysts also operate on the other side, right? Before the solution, what happens before the solution, strategy, etc. Another key part of the role is business process change. Business process change. You see, business environments change. Businesses do change. Technologies change. So a process that may have been designed in 2001 may not be relevant today, or it may have so many inefficiencies, errors, you see. So periodically, businesses aim to improve their processes. And improving their processes, the business analyst plays a key role there, right? In the design of that. Now, when we talk of business process change, there are two aspects of this. There's something we call business process improvement, and there's another thing we call business process re-engineering. Okay, both approaches are used to make changes to business processes. Now, with the first one, business process improvement, let's look at it this way. Let's say somebody goes to buy a house, okay? You buy a house and maybe you don't like the kitchen, you don't like the bathroom. So you modernize the bathroom, you see, you modernize the kitchen to fit your needs, right? So at the end of the day, the structure on which the house is built remains the same. But internally, there are certain aspects of the house that you may have changed. Somebody is out there looking at the house, the same building. So that may be business. So with business process improvement, what we are saying is, you see, there will be a process. The process, part of the process may have certain issues, certain problems, right? Somebody may complain to let's say, Dari, right? That it's taking a long time for them to log onto this system. So Dari may have to look at the process and identify what aspect of the process is creating problems. What aspect of the process is causing delay? So that would be business process improvement, where Dari would only improve that aspect of the process. But if you look at business process re-engineering, it's just like me buying a house and knocking down the house, building the house from ground up. This may be because the house has some structural defects, you see. So in business process re-engineering, it requires the process to be, yes, it's business process re-engineering, business process re-engineering. All right, business process re-engineering, that's fine, Deborah. Okay, good. So re-engineering is where we'll change the sequence of the process from beginning to end. Somebody may be wondering what the business analyst will be doing here. The business analyst is the engineer of all of this. The business analyst will play a key part by documenting how the process currently is. You see, to make a change to any business process, we need to understand the process currently and understand the process that the problems that exist within the process. Let's say you have a car, right? The car is not moving, right? If a mechanic comes to look at the car, they're going to look at many things. They'll do certain tests. You see, they'll check this. I don't know much about cars and fixing cars, but I believe that the mechanic would need a baseline. They would ask you questions. Does the car move? When you turn the ignition, does it respond? Etc., etc. And then they'll be able to diagnose what the problem is. So we as business analysts would need to diagnose the problem. And we cannot diagnose what the problem is if we do not know the process. So we may need to engage these stakeholders. And who are the stakeholders? Those people that participate in the process, you see? And if you take a single process, I don't know if you've considered this. You see, the processes in any organization are like the engine of the organization. If your processes are failing, the business cannot, effectively operate. Okay, you have many customers complaining. You have even staff being demotivated and losing, morale and all that. You see, so it's important that we always diagnose, right? And in diagnosing, we need to engage these stakeholders, take stock of what the current process is. We can do that using what we call investigative techniques, right? Interviews, shadowing, protocol analysis, etc. Okay. So a business analyst plays a key role in business process change. Here it's termed redesign, change, right? Another thing is the business analyst is also responsible for writing the business case, but this is arguable. This will depend on the organization that you're working in, right? In some organizations, the business case is the sole responsibility of the project manager. The project manager may be responsible for writing the business case. In other organizations, you may be brought on a project where the business case would have already been built, but it is well within the remit of a business analyst to write a business case. So we need to understand the makeup of a business case for that. Another is IT requirement specification. IT requirement specification. So what this means is, you see, when we're trying to build an IT solution, whether it's a software, an application, whatever it is, we need to gather the requirements, right? In order to develop that solution. Without requirements, no solution. The requirements are what the business needs the solution to be, right? To have, because the assumption here is that the business would have a need, right? And that IT solution is able to support the business in order to satisfy that need, or that IT solution may actually be that need for that. So the business analyst may be required to define those IT system requirements as well. Okay, good. Okay, so I've had a question for Deborah asking about the techniques of engaging with stakeholders while trying to understand the current business process. Okay, you see, the thing is, there's so many techniques. There's so many techniques, right? But I only mentioned about 2 or 3 of them, and I believe that many of us will be familiar with these. So one of those investigative techniques would be an interview. Okay, an interview. Business analysts do use an interview. Sometimes we call them meetings, right?
Okay, he's having some issues for some reasons with the internet, so he's trying to switch the supply or something. So it messes up once in a while like that or something like that. So yeah, was there a question before that he was kind of like trying to address or something?
Yes, I think there was a question about elicitation.
Okay, yeah. So it's talking about like techniques around that, yeah. Okay, so what that pretty much is like, you know, like you said earlier, that elicitation is requirement elicitation is around gathering the requirements. And the sometimes some people even make a bit of a joke around the fact that you are not gathering any requirements because those requirements are not existing. And sometimes the word elicitation, because it's like you're trying to draw that requirement out of people. They don't know what exactly it is. You're trying to get it from them. And one thing sometimes to be clear about is the fact that uh, and like I was explaining, one of the ways you do that is interviews. I mean, if you need to get information from somebody, you have to interview them. Yeah. Another way is observation. You have to, sometimes you don't speak to the people because sometimes people tell you something different from what they actually do. Hence the need for observation. If you have that space or luxury of time and things like that, you go observe. We talked about this in service design. There's a terminology called Gemba, which is like you go to the place where the work happens and you observe the people, see how they do the work, identify what their pain points are, identify what their problems are. Yeah. So that's one thing about observation. You just sit down. But one challenge with observation in trying to understand people's needs and people's pain points is that when people know they are being observed, their behavior or the way they are doing the work might be different from what it naturally is supposed to be. So there is some things to bear in mind in there. So sometimes it comes to that place of establishing a rapport and putting those people's mind at ease that, hey, I'm not here to catch you, I'm here to help you, kind of thing. So Bolu says, reiterate the techniques of engaging with stakeholders while trying to understand the current business process. Yeah, so in understanding your current business process. So the thing is that you see, process modeling, as it were, it's more or less like a process of understanding requirements as well too. Because when you're modeling process, there's something called the as is process and the to be process. So either you want to improve the process or you want to re-engineer the process. The first thing you need to do is understand the current processes, like you said here. And one of the ways to understand that, understanding the current process a lot is mainly a lot related around interviews and observation. So because so I've worked at an insurance company before, and I needed to map the assess and the to be process to understand, and that is like a way of also doing your gap analysis. So you see, some of all those things are pretty much intertwined because by the time you find out what the gap between where we are and where we want to be is, then you can also check the requirements that you've written for the solution to say, does this address this gap? Yeah. So some of all these things happen in parallel. It's not like you gather some requirements somewhere and then go ahead and do process modeling and all that. So a number of these things happen in parallel because they help cross-validate each other. So interviewing the people, I have to like sit with these guys, interview them, ask them. So they will mention a lot of terminology that I don't know what it means. Then I'll have to ask, what does that mean? How does it work? And in some cases, so sometimes there's even a play between interview and observation happening at the same time. So I'm interviewing somebody, I'm trying to understand, oh, okay, so tell me, how do you process claims? And the person said, oh yeah, we get a call from the customer, then we go into, it mentions the name of a system that it would go into to check the policy and all that, pretty much the ARP. And so because it's explaining something and it's sounding too abstract, I might say, okay, can you show me how you do it? So it goes on, it logs and so this is it. So this is an example. So this is the name. This is the, so these are the different categories of policy. I'm like, oh, what are these? So to even map the process, there's the place of like, I'm trying to understand what the company is doing and everything like that. So it's pretty much a lot of time interviewing and observation. However, there's also the place of document review because you don't need to, there are some things that are already documented and you don't need people to like explain everything to you. You can go ahead and read those documents first. The place of reading those documents will even help you to get more insight. So this is still all trying to map the current business process. Yeah. So one of the tools you use in mapping process, for instance, like the Lucid chart, Microsoft Visio is the most common that I know of. There is IBM BlueWorks as well too. And mapping a business process, you can sketch first with your biro and paper, and then you use the computer tool to like drag and drop the boxes on the line, showing how everything leads and how everything connects together. But to understand all that, you need to be able to All right. Okay, so I've taken the shift because I'm not supposed to be presenting. So Yo is not back yet. So well, we'll go ahead with this one way or another. Let me share a whiteboard screen. Okay, so all right. So does that help? Anyway, so I've mentioned three things: the investigation, observation. I've talked about what else again? I mentioned one other thing: documents reviews. Then there is also workshops, yeah, which is like, okay, you have a lot of people to speak to. So rather than try to speak to each person one after the other, you might as well say, okay, let's gather everybody together and get their understanding. So, and in facilitating workshop itself, there is a whole learning around that, because you need to, one thing to be very careful of is that you are facilitating the workshop. So, and your work as a facilitator is to get everybody to talk, is to make sure that everyone is contributing, because sometimes the person who is keeping quiet in the audience might be having something more important to say than, there are some people who have maybe louder voices in the sessions, and they are trying to talk, so trying to keep some other people quiet. But it's important to make sure that you get information from everyone, because like I said, sometimes some people are quiet, but they have very, very useful things to say. So, and in the process, when you do workshops like this or investigation observation, you capture a note from those interactions. So before you even go ahead and start drawing your business process model and things like that, you capture a note from those people, and you maybe send back through an email, say, this is what I captured from our conversation today. And like, okay, is this understanding correct? They confirm to you, yes, this is correct, before you go ahead and move to something else. So just for like, you can see my screen all right, yeah? Any response? Am I still on this call?
Yes, yes,
okay. Okay, so just for some quick insight, like in the sense that there's some chat here. That's what's in the chat. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. All right. So without jumping the gun, really, like, what's happening with these long lines here? Let me erase that. So without you see, when you model when you do like a business process modeling, it's like you're drawing visual diagram to represent how things work. So you see some things like this. Yeah, something like this. There's something called BPMN. You can take note of that. BPMN. BPMN is the business process modeling notation. So there's some, because there are different opinions. Some people say this box means this other box means that. So there's the BPMN, which kind of like have like a standardized process to say this is how things should be done and all that. So they have, this is one of their own stuff that we're trying to work with here. So this is, the cycle thing is like a start. The boxes are like an activity. Is this a diamond shape or something, is like the decision. So like, did you approve the loan? Yes. This will show you the next activity you need to do. If this is a no, this will tell you the next activity you need to do. And everything needs to end. Everything needs to end, whether it's from here or from here. There needs to be an end to the process, one way or another. Anyway, that's not, this class is not to teach you the whole business process modeling. The next class will talk a bit in more detail around it. So I don't know what's the next thing on yours outline, but if it's still not back, I'll just move ahead to talk around requirements gathering. So we've taken this before, talked a bit around business process modeling. So let's talk a bit about the whole process for requirements. So one thing to note is that when there is, in the whole requirements process itself, it's more or less like the whole requirements management, so to say, which is I love something that you said earlier, which is the fact that either you are doing an IT system or it's a business change, you're trying to manage like maybe a mergers and acquisition, and you need to capture everything that needs to. When you say requirements, yeah, permit me to say that requirements are like checklists, so to say, that says, for us to say that this solution or this change has been delivered, all these things must be captured in what we are working on. So gathering the requirements is like gathering the checklist of everything that our solution needs to deliver or that the change needs to involve, so to say. So, and in doing that, the first thing he said there was elicitation, yeah, which is elicitation of the requirements. Then you document, uh, uh, um, the requirements as well too. Now, in documenting requirements, there are different ways that this could be done because different templates that you could use in capturing it. And to start with, even requirements has levels. There's high-level business requirements and there are low-level business requirements. So when you talk about the high-level business requirements, at this point, what we are looking at is we've not gotten into depth of how exactly the solution is going to look like. So the first level of interaction we've had is like, this is the level where your interaction is with like the senior executive and things like that, or even some from different levels within the organization. But what your high level business requirements is gathering here is just be able to tell us, give us an overall idea of how the solution is going to look like. So this, depending on the need of the people you are submitting this to, this could be like a 3-page, 4-page, or even 2-page documentation, so to say. So, which is just at a high level space, you're just saying, okay, this is the goals, these are the objectives you're trying to achieve with this solution. These are the, this is the scope, which you can capture in terms of the components it has to address, but you've not gone into a lot of depth. And these are like the stakeholders that this solution needs to address, this solution will be for, and all that. So let's take, for instance, if you are going to work with like an outsourced software development team, which a lot of organizations do, for instance. So before they even like sign a contract to say, okay, yeah, we are doing this. Or sometimes the high-level business requirements would come after the contract has been done anyway, because there's also a document that the project management team works on, which is called the scope of work. Yeah. So it interrelates with the idea of business, the high-level business requirement. So this is just high-level. This is what we can say, better view of what the solution is going to look like. Then there is the validation. So you don't document it. You don't document the requirements of what you've gotten from your different stakeholder groups without after documenting. Sorry, you can't just pass it on and say it's done and let someone start working on this solution. Because as a business analyst, you are not the owner of whatever requirements you gather. You are not the owner. So someone is saying here about use case diagram. Is there a standard tool for making use case diagrams? So now use case diagram fall under something called the UML, Unified Modeling Language. And the BPMN I talked about is like a UML thing. Business process modeling is a UML as long as you are modeling something. Use case is different from business process. Yeah. So the use case diagram is something that shows like it's very low level details, telling us if somebody wants to apply for admission to a university on the university's portal, for instance. Let's say you're the business analyst working on developing that admission portal. So a use case diagram will pick a particular instance of what somebody wants to do there. Maybe okay, admission portal has restricted it. So let's say a university portal that can do all sorts, from admission to checking results, to, different. So a use case diagram would pick one thing, maybe taking you from somebody who wants to check his result or somebody who wants to pay school fees. And we'll draw that diagram. So what I drew earlier pretty much follows, sometimes will follow that kind of shape as well to take you from start to finish. So in addressing the question now, which is what tools to use. So I mentioned that earlier, there are tools like Lucid Chart. that you can use. There are tools like, what's the other one I mentioned again earlier? Microsoft Visio. However, you can draw these things on Microsoft Word as well too. You can draw these things on PowerPoint, and there are a lot of other tools, online-based tools and all that. But predominantly, Microsoft Visio is the one that is very, very common, and Lucid Chart is also very, to some extent, common as well too. But there are so many others out there that you can use. But there's another chart. I want to see what the other question could be. Okay, Yo is back now. Okay, thank you, Yo. All right, so I'll just wrap up with this because I was talking about requirements management, elicitation to documentation, then validation, which is the fact that you need to, whatever you've documented, you need to check with the people that you've spoken to. Make sure that you get a verifiable confirmation from them, maybe via email. But that is what is most common these days anyway, that you just submit it and then the person comments and say, okay, yes. But there are some collaborative tools these days that sometimes you don't need to write these documents on Word, Microsoft Word. That, let's say, for instance, you are using tools like Jira and Confluence, tools like Azure DevOps, where they have like a place where you write all your documents in there. So the validation can be as simple as the person who needs to validate logging in and making a comment there that is auditable to show that, yeah, to show that this is the person who has confirmed that, yeah, what you've documented is right with what they've told you. And there's also the place of managing the changes in your requirements, because it's not a one-off document. As you go on in the course of the solution, there are some new things that might be coming up to say, oh, we don't need that again. You need to be able to have a way of managing those changes and tracking those changes as well too. So your requirements documentation really as a business analyst is a living document. So if you're working in an agile context, you can capture your requirements as user stories, and whatever tool you manage them, you need to be able to have a way to track changes. Oh, we've changed this at this date, and things like that. So, and there's something called the requirements traceability metrics, which is where, because your requirements as well, so you'll be connecting it to different things, different documents, like your test cases, like your designs, mock-ups, and things like that. So your RLTM helps you tell you that requirement 155, this ties to this particular test case, ties to this particular design document, and things like that. So I'll stop now. Over to you, Yo, please. Rescue the day.
Yes, thank you, Dari, for holding the fort while that happened. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I had to disappear like that. I had some issues with my system that I had to rectify, but we'll carry on. Dari, can you? Okay, perfect. I've got it now. Okay. So what I came to meet was when Dari was talking about some of the tools that you can use to capture your requirement, manage your requirement, etc., such as the Visio. Visio is brilliant for that, but Visio isn't the only one. As he mentioned, there's Lucid Chart. There are also free platforms as well, apps.diagrams.net. You can try that, play with it. You could use that for also process modeling, and they also have templates for other tasks. All right. So you see, to be a business analyst, there are certain competencies that are required. There are certain competencies that you need in order to do your work. And these are comprised of personal qualities, business knowledge, and professional techniques. So as a business analyst, you need a combination of these techniques, most of which you would pick up in the role, but the other that you would need to have before you can assume your role. Now let's talk about these personal qualities. So the personal qualities are those behavioral competencies like communication. You see, as a business analyst, being the middleman, being the conduit of information between the business, the stakeholders, and IT, business and its needs. It's important that we listen. So having good listening skills is key, as well as having good speaking skills, good writing skills. Another one is being able to build relationships and nurture these relationships. You see, you need to be able to easily build relationships. It's something that cannot be taught. Some aspect of it can, but as people, I mean, there are different ways of learning these. You could even go on YouTube, watch videos of how to pick up these, soft skills. There are others such as critical thinking. You see, this job is an analysis one. It requires analysis. So critical thinking is key, okay? Problem solving skills. And with problem solving skills, there are even models that can help you, that can assist you in solving problems, okay? A key one is political awareness, knowledge of the hierarchy of the organization you're working in, the structure, the reporting lines, and knowing how to use that to your advantage to get things done is important, okay, as a business analyst, among many others, okay, right. But you also need to have some business knowledge. You need to know the makeup of a business case, as well as the purpose of a business case. A business case generally is used to justify a project, to secure funding, etc. The underlying word there is justification. So you need to understand how a business case is used for that. You also need some domain knowledge and subject matter expertise. When we talk about domain knowledge, let's talk about domain. A domain could be an industry. A domain could be an organization, right? An organization being a domain, you need to understand the business, right? You need to understand what the business needs are, because in order to secure, elicit requirements and deliver these requirements, you need to understand the domain as well as subject matter expertise. If the domain is the entire organization, the organization is made up of certain areas. There are certain areas that come together to make the organization work. So these knowledge of these subject areas, right, is important as well. Understanding the processes, how systems interact, etc. All of these are important, as well as knowledge of the market. You need to be aware of what is happening. You see, on a grand scale, industry knowledge, and so on. Right? There's also some professional techniques. Most of these can be taught. And today we're going to be talking about some of these professional techniques, such as strategic analysis. So as a business analyst, you may be required to conduct some strategic analysis. And for strategic analysis, there are many tools that can be used for specific purposes. You have PERSIL analysis, there's SWOT analysis, there's Porter's 5 forces, there's a balanced scorecard, and we could go on and on and on. As a business analyst, there are other professional techniques such as gap analysis. Gap analysis is used to compare and bridge the gap between a current situation and a desired business situation. Okay, you need to understand that. You also need to understand project management. Okay, some of the techniques that Dari mentioned, right, such as using use cases. Okay, use case diagrams, user journey maps, all of these under the umbrella of professional techniques. So as a business analyst, although one cannot pick up all professional, business, and personal qualities before you go into the role, a good part of that needs to be gained by that candidate in order to effectively do the work of a business analyst. Okay. Now, you see, business analysis has a roadmap, and the roadmap represents the key stages involved in doing our work as business analysts. What you have on the screen is detailing the stages. There are 5 stages involved in the business analysis process model, the roadmap. The first is to investigate the situation. The second is to consider perspectives. The third is to analyze needs, then evaluate options, and then define requirements. Now, this business analysis process model works hand in hand with a technique required to problem solve, which was proposed by a few consultants years ago. In that technique, it requires us to mess find. So if you have any business situation, if you want to uncover the root causes and solve the problems, you need to first find the mess. So mess finding they mentioned. And then data finding, okay? Well, I'll explain what these are, right? And then problem finding, okay? Idea finding, solution finding, and then acceptance finding. Okay. Now, it is based on this approach to problem modeling, problem solving, that the business analysis process model has been created. In order to understand any given situation, in order to solve any given problem, you need to mess find. A mess find means investigating the situation. How do you find the mess? How do you understand the scale of the problem if you don't investigate? So that's mess finding there. Okay, right. The second stage is data finding. And data finding is where you seek data sources. You see, you may seek data sources by speaking to people, by referring to certain documentation, by using observation, etc. But when you have found the data, you are now in a very good position to problem find. So problem finding is where we identify the root cause of the problem. Having identified the root cause, you are also well positioned to identify ideas, generate ideas that could potentially be the solution to the problem. As business analysts, we're always advised to consider options before a solution. You do not narrow your focus towards, one solution. It's not. You cannot do that because that solution may be only one way of solving the problem. We need the ideal way of solving the problem. So we generate ideas which we would evaluate. And from those ideas, we'll be able to identify a solution that will be fit for purpose. So idea find. After idea finding, solution finding. So what this means is that we may be able to generate ideas, but from those ideas, we can find a solution that would fit. So solution finding is where we find that solution. But no solution is a solution unless it is accepted and then embedded. So that is acceptance finding. Now, if you look at the business analysis process model, it's quite similar to this approach, right? Investigating the situation is mess finding. We're trying to understand a given business situation to uncover any problems that may exist, right? In investigating, we would need to consider perspectives, right? And what we mean by considering perspectives is, you see, you're going to engage with stakeholders that may have different perspectives of what the solution should be, or even what the problem is, right? So consider perspectives. So at this stage, you identify key stakeholders whose perspectives are key for that. The next stage would be to analyze needs. And in analyzing the needs, what we're doing is we're considering all that has been gathered, and we're looking to identify where improvements need to be made. And in analyzing the needs, the technique we call gap analysis is very important for that. This is where we are now. This is where we need to be. How do we bridge the gap? And in bridging that gap, we may have to consider certain options. And in considering those options, we may see that certain options may not be feasible or viable. We may eliminate them and so on. So analyze needs requires some form of gap analysis for that. Following analyze needs, there's evaluate options. And evaluate options is where we would produce a list of options that could potentially be the solution, do an evaluation of feasibility of those options, and then present the final set of options for requirement definition. So that's evaluate options. And then the last stage is define requirements, where we would gather the requirements, analyze, validate, and then document. So this gives you a snapshot of the entire roadmap of a business analyst or business analysis work. There are many techniques that can be used in these stages. In the first stage, which is investigate the situation, would use techniques that we need to investigate. You see, this is an analysis role. In our analysis, we'll be required to investigate. And in investigation, there are many tools that can be used. I started previously by talking about the interview. The interview is a brilliant way of taking stock of certain stakeholders' views on what is currently happening. We can also use workshops. Workshops are most preferred by many business analysts because it speeds up, the process of even gathering and analyzing requirements. A workshop is like what we have now. We have multiple stakeholders, multiple people, multiple users in one platform, in one space where we can discuss multiple things, and then that would speed up the process. In considering perspectives, there are also tools that can be used, stakeholder management tools, right? We can talk about the power and interest grid. So let's show you what the power and interest grid is like. So the power and interest grid is just like a graph, okay? So it would have two axes, like the Y and X axis, from my basic statistics, if my memory serves me right. So it would look something like this, okay? So you have the left-hand side, which is used to assess the level of power of a certain stakeholder, and the right-hand side where you assess the level of interest, okay? So the level of power can be assessed as high, medium, or low. And it's the same scale for interest, low, medium, and high. Okay, so this is one of the tools that can be used. I cannot go into any depth of this. Usually we'd use this to assess, to analyze our stakeholders so that we know how much power they have over the change or the project that is being initiated, as well as what level of interest they have and what motivates their interest. The aim of this is to know whose issues to attach weight to, whose support we need to win or maintain in order to deliver a successful project. So this is also great for political. So we mentioned political awareness. This is great for that as well. So that is great for stakeholder management. Sometimes you also have a stakeholder plan, which is a template where you can store information about your stakeholders, what their needs are, what their requirements are, etc. Okay, right. In analyze needs, gap analysis. Gap analysis is one of the tools that will be used here. Gap analysis, and then impact analysis. So we talked about gap analysis briefly. There's also impact analysis. What impact analysis is we're trying to assess the possible effects that pursuing a certain option may have on the wider business. Okay, so gap analysis usually goes hand in hand with impact analysis. Options development. So in evaluate options, there are techniques for developing options, and often feasibility study would have been done at that stage. And then define requirements. We have so many techniques that can be used. Dari mentioned use case diagrams, etc. Okay, sometimes you have entity relationship diagrams, class models, etc., process models, and so on. Now, the interesting thing is that when defining the requirements, we need to gather those requirements. How do we gather them? Now, some of the techniques that would have been used to investigate a given situation may also be applied here, such as the interview, such as workshops, okay, for that. So this gives us a roadmap for doing our business analysis work, and many business analysis projects would go through these stages. All right. Now, let's look at what role business analysis plays in the systems development lifecycle. The SDLC you see there stands for Systems Development Lifecycle, or the Software Development Lifecycle. Okay. Yes, so we've had a question from Bola that is decision tree also applicable in evaluating options. Perfect. Yes, it's applicable. It's applicable. So I'm sure somebody may be wondering what a decision tree is. Okay. So a decision tree is just a diagram that shows, you know, the different variations and what would be done for that. So an example of this could be, let's say, are you hungry? Okay, this is just to demonstrate, right? Hungry, okay. If yes, do this. Okay. If no, do something else. So decision trees can be used for multiple purposes, and it can be used for evaluating options as well. No, go home. So this is just an example, and it can have many threads and many lines. We could have more. So if yes, buy food, we can even look at what food to buy. Okay. Are you going to buy a burger or are you going to buy rice? What are you going to buy? So a decision tree can take such a form, and it can be brilliant for assessing options as well. All right. So the software development lifecycle or the system development lifecycle shows it's a process, you see, through which systems, IT solutions, software can be developed, right? There are many software development life cycles there, but I believe that the underlying approach would remain the same, okay? The beginning of the life cycle would be initiation and planning, okay? Followed by requirement analysis, and then design and development, and then testing and implementation. If you're wondering the difference between this and the business change life cycle, there's a vast difference. The business change life cycle shows how change would originate and evolve. And it's a framework that businesses can use to even plan their projects and their programs. But this looks at the solution end of things. How do we deliver the solution? How do we deliver the software? How do we deliver this application? So that's what the system development life cycle is. There are many methodologies, many approaches for this. Okay, you have many agile approaches, you have waterfall approach, you have so many of them. Okay, but the business analyst during the initiation and planning approach stage would carry out an analysis of the requirement. Usually some feasibility would have already been done. Okay, and following the feasibility, a business case will be presented highlighting the cost element of implementing the solution, as well as any benefits that the business may stand to gain for that. In requirement analysis, Darren mentioned use case. So the use case diagrams can be used to further translate these requirements, right? So that we understand them and ensure that these requirements can be taken forward to delivery. Following that, there will be design and implementation. And as a business analyst, you would need to clarify what the developers need to do, right? And in doing that, there's certain models that we can use for that. There are certain data models, there are class models that can be used to interpret data and show the key elements that need to be held in the system, the entity relationship diagrams, and so on. And then in testing and implementation, the BA would participate in user acceptance testing, regression testing, sanity testing, etc. So let's just call it testing. Okay, right. So regression testing is where we're trying to test to see whether the solution is actually fit for purpose, even though certain changes may have been made for that, right? And sanity testing would be another a way of testing to ensure that the actual solution reflects what was intended to do. Okay, all right. Now we're moving on to strategic analysis. As a business analyst, at some point in your role, you may be required to carry out some strategic analysis. Some of us already do, but we may not know that what we're doing is strategic analysis. Now, strategic analysis requires us to study the environment of the business. So in studying the environment of the business, we're studying the business and its environment, right? To define actions the business can take in deploying its goals, you see, and achieving them. All right, but let's define strategy. Strategy is a plan. You see, we believe every business would have a mission. You see, every business has a mission, and a mission defines why the business exists and what it intends to do. If I should set up a charity today, and my mission is to end hunger, that gives you an idea of why the business exists and what we really intend to do. Now, this mission would need to be broken down into certain goals, certain achievable goals. Because if I tell you I want to end hunger as my mission, the mission is it's not measurable, right? How would I know when I've ended hunger? How can I track my performance against that? It's difficult. So the mission is always broken down into sets of goals that are specific, that can be measured, that are achievable, that are relevant to the mission, and time bound. Okay. Now, these objectives would require a roadmap, would require a plan. Okay. Because if I tell you that my mission is to end hunger, and one of my objectives is to feed 500 people on the streets, right, by 2021. Okay. I've given you a figure. I've given you a time scale against which you can measure. But you see, how am I going to feed 500 people over the next few years is the question. This is where we need a strategy. So every business has goals, therefore it has strategies, right? But you see, strategy is something that has to change over time because business environments also do change. Otherwise, strategy that has been defined today may not be relevant in the next 5 years. Technologies may have changed, consumer behavior may have changed, the way businesses operate would have to change, competition, etc. So it's important that strategy changes. But you see, in order to make any change to strategy, we need to be aware of the business environment. We need to know what our competitors are doing. We need to understand consumer behavior. We need to understand the market. We need to know the political situation, etc. Okay, so strategic analysis is one of the key roles that many business analysts would have to carry out. So here, we're going to look at just an overview of the strategic analysis approach here, right? Strategic analysis, or developing strategy, if you like. Let's look at strategy development and we'll talk about the strategic analysis techniques that can be used. For business analysts, we're usually on the solution end of things, but not always. There are many business analysts who are working on the strategic end. This is important because in order to deliver a solution that is aligned with the organization's objectives and its strategy, we need to understand the origin of the solution, right? In understanding the origin of the solution, it goes back to strategy, right? In developing strategy, it's important that we understand the current situation in the business, right? So the usual starting point in strategy development is to analyze the current competencies, the current resources that the business already has. So in other words, it would be some form of internal, environment analysis. We're trying to look at how much money we have in the bank, what our current stock is, how many staff we have, what equipment we use, our IT systems, etc. We need to understand that. And in order to analyze these, we have a technique known as a resource audit. So a resource audit is one of these strategic analysis tools. Okay, all right. So let's put that here and we'll look at what a resource audit is used for and how it can be used briefly. So as the name implies, a resource audit is an audit of an organization's resources. So what this means is that we want to understand at any given time what resources are currently available in the business, what competencies we currently have as a business. A resource audit usually groups the resources into headings. Okay, it has headings, right? So one of those headings would be physical. So where we highlight the physical resources in the business. And here with the physical resources, we're looking at the tools, equipment, or resources that are used to produce goods and services on a day-to-day basis. So we have such factors as the equipment, which means the technologies, etc. Okay. We can also talk about the buildings, right? We can look at stock, right? So so we would analyze these and provide what the current resource base is for that, right? So that's one aspect of the resource audit. There's also a financial aspect of the resource audit where we're trying to understand the organization's financial position, okay? In understanding the organization's financial position, certain things such as cash flow can be looked at. Cash flow, cash at bank, credit lines, etc. Trying to understand the financial situation of the business. All right. Another one is human human resource audit. So these are all aspects of a general resource audit. So this is a human resource where we're trying to, look at how many staff we have, what sort of skills they have, what experience they have. And knowing this is usually done, if anybody has worked in the HR department of an organization, periodically, HR team would conduct a resource audit to identify training needs of staff, to replenish any staff that they have lost, etc. Right? So staff, skills, experience, and so on. Right? So human resource, and then there are also some other aspects of a resource audit that are also added. These are considered intangible. Okay. And you can look at such factors as the reputation of the business. It's considered intangible, okay, as well as other aspects, like if the business has any licenses, any patents, any trademarks, any methodologies that are owned by the business, etc. So a resource audit provides a complete assessment of the current resource base in any organization for that. And that usually would start the strategy development process. We're not saying that this is the only approach used to develop strategy. There are several approaches. Managers can just go and have a simple discussion and decide to try a certain way of doing things. That could also be strategy development. But this gives us a complete, end-to-end sort of process, complete with tools that can be used to develop strategy. So that is the resource audit. All right, let's move on. The second question is, what factors will or do impact us? So having understood what our current resource base is, okay, we need to consider things from the external perspective as well. What is happening out there that can impact us, right? And in impacting us, the things happening out there could impact the business positively, because it may present certain opportunities that a business can take advantage of. For example, if we find that people are leaning more towards driving electric cars, and if we're a vehicle dealership, we'll be more interested in, stocking electric cars, which would go to our advantage because it's going to drive, you'll be able to meet demand and maximize profits for that. So a study of the business external environment is always important, so that we know what is happening beyond the control of the business, so that the business can in turn plan, right, and remain relevant over time. But how do we know what those factors are? So to answer that, we have PESTLE. I believe many of us have come across PESTLE at work, in university, etc., and would memorize PESTLE in our heads. But PESTLE is a very powerful tool. Okay, PESTLE, very powerful tool. Businesses would use PESTLE to understand the external influences on their business. Now, PESTLE is just an abbreviation, okay? The P in PESTLE stands for political, okay? And so what the political aspect is, we're trying to understand the political situation in the business. In the country that the organization is domiciled in, all right? So in carrying out a PESTLE analysis, if I'm in London, I'm going to look at the political situation currently in England, in the UK in general, you see, and that would inform my strategy as well. Because if the government is telling us to lock down, to stay in our homes and shut down our businesses, we cannot afford to shut down our business. We need to look into ways of operating, even though we have lockdown. But we also need to ensure that we're within the guidance, guidelines that have been provided for that. We need to understand the political situation. We also need to understand the macroeconomic situation, the macroeconomic factors that could possibly impact demand, such as money supply, disposable income, unemployment rates, exchange rates, interest rates, even competition from other businesses, etc. All of these could possibly impact demand. If people do not have enough money in their accounts, how can they come and buy our product? If people are not getting jobs, how can they purchase our product? Again, All competitors are vying for market share. We're all chasing the same customers. So it's important to know, to be aware of competitor activity as well, as that could possibly have an impact on the business as well, you see. Now, PESTLE also requires us to consider the socio-economic factors. And these socio-cultural factors could possibly have an impact on the economic factors as well. But with the socio-cultural factors, we're trying to understand trends and behaviors in society, right? What are people interested in now? Okay. What are people's attitudes towards the environment, towards even COVID, right? We need to understand these socio-cultural influences so that the business can be well positioned to design products and services that deliver value accordingly, right? We also need to understand the technological influences for that. So there's a technological part of PESTLE that considers new and emerging technology. Let's say we're delivering these sessions in a classroom. Going forward, we would need to do this on a virtual platform so that people from different countries all over the world can join in and get some value add, right? So it's important that we keep an eye out there to identify any new technology that is emerging, technology that we may not possibly have in the business that could, perhaps improve what we do. Another is legal. You see, we need to also understand the laws, regulations. These days, all organizations are regulated to a certain extent by a certain body. These regulations undergo changes over time. There are even new additions to these. At the start of the year, we did not have any guidelines for social distancing, but now we do. Businesses need to be aware of these and factor that when designing strategy. So there's a legal aspect that needs to be considered. Now, we're also told that we're in a global climate crisis, right? So there are certain environments, not only because of that, but it's important that we also consider some ecological factors as well, as that could possibly have an impact on what we do as a business, right? In the past, if you went to buy fried rice or any of these fast foods by the roadside, they would give you a plastic bag, right? I know that many fast food joints still do, but you still see new, emerging fast food sort of hipster places that are using paper bags. That's because there's a certain impact that using plastic bag would have potentially in the environment, on the earth as a whole. So we need to be aware of the ecological factors such as climate change, even the weather, waste, pollution, disease. All of these could possibly impact the business. So businesses conduct PESTLE analysis to look at the external environment from a holistic viewpoint, right? We are not saying that PESTLE is the only external environment analysis tool. There's also something called Porter's 5 forces. Porter's 5 forces. Again, this isn't something we just commit to our memory. These are powerful tools that are used by businesses to assess the environment. Now, Porter's 5 forces is primarily used to assess the level of competitiveness that may exist in any given industry. It also helps businesses in assessing the attractiveness of a new market that is trying to go into. So if I decide to sell oranges today, right, I would need to be aware of how many people sell oranges, possibly how many people are even interested in buying oranges, right? How easy is it to start an orange business? Okay, and where I'm going to get my orange from. So Porter's 5 forces is a brilliant tool to look at that. Okay, the main aim of Porter's 5 forces is to make businesses, be in a good position to gain competitive advantage. Every business that is for profit aims to be ahead of its competition, right? So Porter's 5 forces is important. Now, I'm sure somebody may be wondering what these 5 forces are. So let me list them here. So one of them is the threat of new entrants, okay? The threat of new entrants. And we'll explain what that is. Threat of new entrants, the threat of substitute products, Forgive my spelling, it's just anywhere today. Threat of substitute products. Okay. We also need to understand the bargaining power of buyers, bargaining power of suppliers. Okay. All right. So, what is the threat of new entrants? You may be wondering. You see, in determining the level of attractiveness, all right, the level of competition, whether it's a good initiative to enter a new market, we first need to understand the threat of new entrants. With the threat of new entrants, one thing should be considered, and that is barriers to entry. Okay. And what are barriers to entry? So the barriers to entry are certain mechanisms that are in place that would limit the amount of new entrants that could enter a new market. I used to live in Ghana years ago, and I used to work in a bank, you see. But why is it that with the little knowledge I have of banking operations and knowing that banks can be very profitable, why don't I gather a few friends of mine and start a bank? It does not work like that. There are barriers to entry, you see, and these barriers could be the initial startup costs. To start a bank, we know that all banks have a minimum capital requirement, right? Which is not easy to come by. There are also certain regulatory requirements that have to be met, right? So all of these are barriers to entry. Barriers to entry can be high or low. You see, if a barrier to entry is low, it means that new entrants can easily enter the market. But if barriers to entry are high in a certain industry, it is not easy to enter the market, right? Government can erect barriers to entry. Where you have monopolies, government may institutionalize a certain company as a monopoly, right? When I was in Ghana, there were certain companies that were only, that were providing power, right? And those were instituted by government. When you talk of waste management, you see, anybody who has ideas of recycling or even entering the waste management market may be discouraged because there's a powerful force, you see, that is known and is providing waste management services in the country. This is not political. I'm just saying this for learning purposes, you see. So the threat of new entrants is there. We need to understand what barriers to entry exist. Now, government alone cannot erect barriers to entry. Sometimes businesses themselves can erect barriers to entry. We have businesses differentiating, okay, the strength of the brand of the brand can even be a barrier to entry. You see, where I'm from, many people refer to any cola drink as Coca-Cola, whether it's Pepsi, whether it's Sainsbury's Cola, whatever cola drink it is, Coca-Cola. You see, that's because of the strength of the brand Coca-Cola. So that itself can be a barrier to entry, right? So we need to understand this force, the threat of new entrants. Because where barriers to entry are low, this means new entrants can easily enter the market. And when new entrants easily enter the market, what are they coming to do? They are coming to chase the same customers. They are coming to provide similar products. So we need to look at the threat of substitute products, you see. So when new entrants enter the market, the likelihood of creating substitute product is high. So we need to look at the threat, right? Are there any substitute product available on the market? Okay. Are there any products that could do the same thing as my product is doing? Is there anything that could offer the same value to customers as my product is doing? What can I do in order to remain relevant in the market? So we need to understand the threat of new entrants as well and deploy strategies that will differentiate the products from the wider market. Also, we need to evaluate the bargaining power of buyers. Bargaining power of buyers, right? Buyers would have high bargaining power if they have many options, okay, right? And as consumers ourselves, sometimes we press suppliers to reduce their price. We can even threaten them. If you do not give me this thing at 5,000 Naira, pound, cedis, I'm going to go to Isaac down the road who can give me the same thing cheaper. So we need to understand that, the bargaining power of buyers, right? And in understanding these, businesses are always constantly looking for ways to tie in their customers. Many of us have subscribed to certain services, subscription services, Apple Music here, Spotify there, LinkedIn there. They have tied us in. There are always, they probably looked at all of these and considered ways to retain their customers, right? So we need to look at the buyer power, right? And while looking at buyer power, businesses consider bargaining power of suppliers, right? In looking at the bargaining power of suppliers, what is the strength of the supplier? How much power does the supplier have? Can we easily change suppliers in the event of a compromise on the quality of our supplies? If I'm selling shoes, I make shoes and sell shoes, and I have only one supplier from whom I get my leather, right? The supplier could easily increase their price. That's if that supplier is the only one available in the market. And we don't have any contractual agreement binding my business to getting the leather from only that supplier. So it's important that businesses consider all of these in determining how attractive the market is. In determining how attractive the market is, a conclusion can then be drawn, right, for the industry competition. So really and truly, Porter's 5 forces looks at how certain 4 forces interplay, right, in influencing a 5th force. And these 4 forces are what we looked at: the threat of new entrants, threat of substitute products, bargaining power of buyers, bargaining power of suppliers, and then the 5th force would be industry competition. So Porter's 5 forces looks at how 4 forces interplay in determining a 5th force. And it's a brilliant tool for determining competitive advantage for that. Okay. The third thing here is, what are we good or not so good at, right? So assuming we have conducted our resource audit and our personal analysis, right? What are we good at and what are we not good at as a business? You see, what this means is we have already conducted some form of internal analysis in our resource audit. What did we find in our resource audit? Where are the areas that we are weak as a business? And where are our strengths as a business? Where do we need to prioritize? Where do we need to make improvements? What can we maximize, right? What can we take advantage of in order to maximize our profits, etc.? So SWOT analysis can be used for such a purpose. SWOT is also an interesting one. SWOT is a tool, right, that is used for internal and external environment analysis. The S in SWOT stands for strength, okay, and that's what we're looking for, strengths. Strengths are usually identified internally. The weakness, the W represents weakness, all right? So what are our weaknesses as a business? The O represents opportunities. What are opportunities? And then the T represents threats, okay? So the interesting thing about SWOT is a part of SWOT can be used for internal analysis, while another part of SWOT can be used for external analysis. So this part of SWOT, the strengths and weaknesses, are for internal analysis, while the OT part of SWOT, which is the opportunities and threats, is used for external analysis, okay? So how do we do this is the question, you see. Now, you see, the strengths are usually positive things, right? That would enhance an organization's ability to achieve its goals, right? If I'm selling oranges and everybody comes to me to buy oranges, that would be a key strength in my business, right? Nobody goes to the other guys that sell oranges. They all come to me. That would be a strength. That would even give me a good reputation. So with that, it would maximize my ability to achieve my goals. But the weakness is not so great. It's bad. So if I'm having cash flow problems currently in my business, that would be a serious weakness. That's something that would need to be improved, right? Opportunities and threats are predominantly external, but that's not to say that we may not identify internal opportunities. So opportunities could be that we have found that many people are interested in buying oranges online. So as a business, there may be that opportunity to tap into that market. So we may create an e-commerce website where we'd get people to go and buy oranges online. So that would be the opportunity there, right? Also, if we have a competitor, maybe Dari has a stand. He has a stand where he sells oranges and even delivers oranges to people's doorsteps, but we don't deliver oranges to people's doorsteps. That would be a serious threat because Dari can start stealing my customers for that, right? So as a business, we need to combine internal and external analysis. For SWOT, SWOT can be done on many levels. SWOT can be done internally, right? To evaluate departments, resources, even projects. Generally, for SWOT analysis, there's a scope. If a business wants to reduce cost, right, there may be a SWOT analysis in that regard. We need to understand our strengths, our weaknesses, and opportunities and threats for that. So SWOT generally has a scope, right? But in strategy development, SWOT is used to tie together the results of our resource audit and our PESTLE analysis. In our resource audit, we mentioned that it's used to assess the internal, resources of a business. So if a business is having cash flow problems and is reviewed in the financial audit, part of our resource audit, then SWOT can be used to label that financial problem as a weakness. But if we also find that people are interested in buying oranges online, which we have found in conducting a PESTLE analysis, SWOT can also be used to identify that opportunity. So SWOT is used to align the results, right, of our strategic analysis. We've had a question from Deborah. She mentions, how can SMEs or startups less than a year identify their strengths and weaknesses or internal opportunities? Okay, you see, as a startup, right, you need to consider what resources you have and what you need. You may even need to start by considering what's out there, right? So basically, who are your target audience? Okay, what is the opportunity? And you now look within your business, your potential business, and ask yourself, what are those resources that I need to in order to maximize or take advantage of that opportunity? So as a startup, you can use SWOT as well. If you have money, if you have a lot of funds, if you have an investor backing you, that would be a strength. Okay. If you do not have any money, that may be a weakness. So it may be important to consider how you can, generate funding for that. The opportunity may be the demand that may be in the market, and a threat may be changing technologies. It may be certain saturated markets. It depends, all right? So in order to conduct SWOT analysis, you need to give us what exactly the business is that you're going to go into, okay? So SWOT can be used for many purposes for that, all right? But I believe that in order to conduct SWOT analysis effectively for your startup, you first need to understand what the external environment is. And so PESTLE will be more preferred as a starting tool, because you need to be aware of what is happening out there to determine whether such a business is even worthwhile. Okay, you may have to use even Porter's 5 forces to understand the market that you're trying to go into. How many customers are there? How many people are supplying the same product or services that I want to deliver? Okay, and etc. Is that okay for you, Deborah? All right. So that is SWOT. Now, in strategy development, after resource audit, external analysis is done, and we mentioned that PESTLE can be used, you see. Following that, we use SWOT to align the results of our resource audit and our PESTLE so that the business can know what actions to take. If we find that we have cash flow problems, we would identify actions that need to be made. Perhaps certain changes may need to be made in the business. If we need to lay off certain staff, we may do that. If we need to reduce overhead costs by working from home, we could do that as well. So SWOT helps the business to prioritize areas that they need to focus on, as well as what actions to take, right, in order to deploy the strategy. So following SWOT, there's usually something called MOST analysis. And MOST analysis is just an abbreviation for the mission, objectives, strategies, and tactics. Okay. Now, I believe everybody has watched Game of Thrones. You see that when you're watching Game of Thrones, all of those old, movies set in the old medieval times, there's always a scene where you have the king or the queen in a dark room with certain key people from the military, maybe the general, and they'll be moving certain things, certain objects on the map. After that scene, they are off to battle, right? And at battle, if anything goes wrong, they will change the way they fight. In the movies, sometimes they have a secret weapon that they will deploy whenever things go wrong. The main aim is to conquer the enemy state for these people. So what they are doing there is they are strategizing, right? And when there's anything going wrong at battle, they change tactics. MOST is a key tool in strategy development. It's always used to confirm what actions the business needs to take in deploying its strategies in order to achieve the objectives in fulfillment of the mission of that business. So let's define these. The mission, as we know, is why the business exists. The objectives are certain goals that are set from the mission. The strategies define a path through which the business can achieve the objectives. And the tactics are the actual, short-term actions that will be taken in order to deploy the strategy. So after SWOT analysis, usually businesses would confirm the tactics, right, in order to deploy the strategy for that. So the tactics may be where they are planning certain projects that need to be delivered, right? So projects are seen as a tactical approach to delivering changes. Now, many businesses in the past were focusing on delivering standalone projects, right? But now you have businesses increasingly focusing on delivering changes using a strategic approach. So what this means is, you see, they may have a program of changes within which there are several projects. So we have this big circle. Let's call this big circle the program. Okay, let's call this big circle program. Okay. All right. And within this program, there are multiple projects. So we may have project 1. We may have project 2. All right. So let's assume that in this program, there are 2 projects, right? Now, the overall aim of this program is to fulfill a certain business objective or certain business objectives, if you like. Okay. Now, in the past, many businesses were only focusing on P1 and P2, standalone projects. But now businesses are taking a strategic approach where they're looking at a long-term plan for delivering changes via programs, which is why we have program managers. And there may even be portfolios, you see, portfolios as well. Portfolios are also another medium through which projects are delivered. Now, so we can say that tactics are, the projects are the tactics. You see, we're not saying that always the tactics will be only projects. The tactics generally are actions that need to be taken in deploying the strategy. And some of those tactics may be projects, right? Because certain changes would need to be made. And we know that changes are delivered via projects, right? And the strategies may have certain programs because the aim of the program is to fulfill objectives, okay? The point we're making here is that within strategy development, businesses will do a MOST analysis to confirm what actions to take. All right. And then lastly, assuming strategies have been developed and then implemented, how do we know how well we're doing as a business? So we need to assess performance. Okay, we need to assess performance. And in assessing the performance of the business, we need to identify critical success factors, KPIs, and performance targets. for that. And in identifying critical success factors are those key few areas that need to be in place. The few key things that the business has to do well in order to fulfill its objectives. KPIs are used to measure those critical success factors. So for example, if for our orange juice business, a critical success factor is say the quality of our oranges, right? We'll need to know how quality our oranges are. So a KPI can be set to measure how quality our oranges are, right? There's also something called the balanced business scorecard. And the balanced business scorecard is a framework used for measuring performance, right? Now, in the past, many businesses were measuring performance only focusing on financial performance alone. And I understand why. Even if you ask me today, if I had a business and you ask me what I would look at if I want to assess the performance of my business, I'll probably look at financial performance first, right? But the balanced business scorecard is there to ensure that businesses are not only focusing on financial performance measurement, right? It ensures that businesses take a balanced viewpoint, right? So that they can effectively measure performance. So the balanced scorecard is saying, keep measuring financial performance, but do not only focus on that. Also look at customer satisfaction, customer retention. Also look at your internal business processes and look at metrics for that, as well as learning and growth, right? Track the growth curve, the learning curve of the business as well. So after we have used all these strategy development techniques, we need to measure performance, but measuring performance has to be from a balanced viewpoint where we're not only measuring financial performance, is what we are saying, okay? So with that, we have come to the end of the delivery of this short session. This is now question time. So if anybody has questions to ask regarding anything we have discussed, please feel free to do so. Any questions? You can type or you can speak. You can unmute yourself and ask the question as well. Feel free.
Thank you very much. This is Victoria.
Oh, hi, Victoria. Yes.
Yes. The tools, in one of the tools for strategy development,
yeah,
the critical success factors.
Yeah.
The PT, I didn't get what it is. PT.
Ooh, okay. Let's go back. I think okay, so let's go back to the PT. Give me a second. I'll bring that up on the screen. All right. PT. I believe this is it. Okay, give me a second. All right, PT. So PT stands for performance targets. Okay. So we looked at critical success factors. Okay. KPI and then performance targets. Okay. Now, let's say a critical success factor is the quality, right? Because in order to let's assume that we're selling orange. I don't know why orange. Maybe I'm drinking orange juice. That's why. But let's say in selling orange juice, the quality of our orange juice, okay, is a critical success factor. What this means is that in order to meet our objectives, in order to maximize profit, right, the quality of our oranges is important. But how quality are the oranges is the question. So to ensure that the orange is of good quality, businesses would set a performance target. For quality, they would set a quality standard that they aim for the oranges to reach. So for example, we could set a performance target that we aim for all our oranges, right? To be, let's say we aim for all our buyers, all the people that buy our oranges to agree that our oranges are of good quality, all right? That's a target, right? Yeah. So a performance target is just a lower level goal that is set in order to achieve the desired performance. I've also seen a comment by Deborah that are balanced business scorecards applicable in measuring employee performance for the business? Absolutely. Balanced scorecards can be tailored to suit any purpose for the business. It can be used on different levels. It can be used on organizational-wide scale. It can be used departmentally to set targets for departments and measure performance. It can be used to set targets for individuals in a business, as well as measure the performance. So the balanced scorecard, the underlying philosophy here is that when measuring performance, you need to take a balanced viewpoint, right? And the generic balanced scorecard has four perspectives to look at. One of them is the financial perspective, okay? So in order to fulfill your financial goals, what are you going to measure is the question, right? So you may look at return on investment, profits, revenue, etc. You also need to look at the customer perspective. In customer perspective, you need to satisfy your customer, because how can you meet your financial goals if you don't have anybody coming back to buy your product, right? If you focus only on financial performance, you'll get to a point where the money may cease coming, because customers would only buy your product if they believe that they're getting value and the price that they're paying is commensurate to the value that they're getting out of it. So you need to pay attention to the customer's perspective as well. You also need to look at internal business processes, which is a very key one, right? Because processes, as I always say, are the engine of business. To start this course, right, there was a process. Zoom, I had to do one thing and do another process, right? If I need something from Amazon, there are processes for that. If those processes are failing, I may not get what I want from Amazon, and Amazon wouldn't get any income for that. You see, revenue for that. So we need to ensure that our processes have three things: efficiency, efficacy, effectiveness. So metrics are used, effectiveness, efficiency, and efficacy metrics are used to assess processes so that businesses are able to know how much time and cost goes into the process, whether the process produces its intended products, and whether those products can satisfy customers. And the final perspective is to measure the growth curve of the business, right? The learning curve and the growth curve. So learning and growth is another dimension. And these can be measured by looking at the number of staff that are recruited who have the necessary skills for that, staff training, and so on. Because we cannot achieve our financial goals if the foundation is not laid right. And by foundation, I mean the employees. Any business performance measurement would have to include learning and growth. Another question from Deborah is, are balanced business scorecards applicable in measuring? Okay, we've already looked at that. And what tool can be used to measure internal assets in terms of a startup company focused on delivering educational services to entry-level professionals? What tool can be used to measure internal assets in terms of a startup company focused on delivering educational services? So for this, a resource audit would be brilliant. So all you need to do is to assess what resources you have. You can start by looking at your financial resources. You can look at your physical resources that you may need. Okay, looking at your physical resources, if you said it's a startup company focused on delivering educational services, are you going to deliver face-to-face services? Are you going to deliver, these services via virtual collaborative technology? If so, you need to assess what you have now. And then you can look into how you're going to get the necessary resources that you need. So a resource audit will be perfect for what you're saying, Deborah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Hello, Yo.
Yes, Victoria, go on.
Say we do a resource audit in the beginning of our strategy development, and then we do the PESO process. Mm-hmm. Do we have to do SWOT analysis? Oh, and then we do the Porter's 5 forces. Do we have to do a SWOT analysis? Because I believe that at the point of the resource audit, mm-hmm. you should find strengths and weaknesses of the business, and then at the Porter's 5 forces, you find the opportunities and threats. Do we still have to do a SWOT analysis?
okay, you will find yourself doing SWOT analysis subconsciously. You see, the resource audit only lays bare what resources you have. If you identify your strengths and weaknesses, you have used SWOT in a certain way. Okay. So as long as you see, if you identify strengths or weaknesses after doing a resource audit, you're using an aspect of SWOT. If you're identifying opportunities that you can take advantage of after conducting a PESTLE or Porter's 5 forces, you're still, using SWOT in a certain extent. So SWOT would end up being used at a certain stage to prioritize, to identify what we can do and what we cannot do. Okay. So this is not to say that Porter's 5 forces would always be used. Where we want to understand the market, the competitiveness of the market, then we can use Porter's 5 forces, because PESTLE would reveal certain macroeconomic factors for that. If those factors are not enough and you feel that it's important that you need to understand the market you're operating in or a market that you're trying to go into, then Porter's 5 forces will be used. Yes, Victoria. Yes, is that okay, Victoria?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. Any more questions, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. All right. I've seen your hand up, Deborah. Is this from ages ago, or this is a new hand? All right. I'm assuming it's an old one. Anyway, if there are no more questions, I would like to thank you all for attending this session. It's been an enjoyable one for me. And I believe that it's been very useful for yourselves as well. Very nice to meet all of you. And definitely we'll meet again under a different setting. So I'll humbly hand over to Dare to conclude the sessions. Before I do that, Dare, I've just seen another message from Deborah.
Okay.
Her question is, do you recommend any professional certification for entry-level BAs? All right. So for entry-level BAs, you see, there are many certifications there. There's IIBA, okay. There's the BCS, Business Analysis Foundations for that. So there are many that I could recommend. I would say that look at the Foundation Certificate in Business Analysis by the BCS. Look at the syllabus, see if it's something that is in line with your objectives. If it is, then I'd recommend that as you know, it gives you a good sort of overview of what to expect in your role as a BA. Okay. Thank you, God Day. Thank you. I've also enjoyed that as well. Thank you, Dumo. You're all welcome. Good. Good. It's been an enjoyable one. Thank you all. And hopefully we get to, you know, have a chat again. Okay. So I'll hand over to Dare. Dare.
If there's anyone who wants to connect with you, like they might have any question later. Can you?
Yes. It's good you should mention that. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm putting my full name there. I will also add my email because I don't know what I did months ago. For some reason, anybody that sends me a request has to put an email. So I'll add my email as well. Feel free to contact me if you need to reach me. Okay. So if you're prompted to add an email, just put this email I've put there for LinkedIn. Okay, let's connect. And I believe in the future we can do many great things together. Thank you. Dare.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's a good refresher course for me and myself. So that's really lovely. And I'm imagining that some people will probably be wondering here that, hey, this is a whole lot to take in. Well, indeed, it's a lot to take in because under normal circumstance, this is how many full days would it take to deliver foundation business analysis?
For foundation business analysis, it's a 3-day course. But I mean, the course can be tailored to suit whoever wants to do the course. So yes. The BCS, Yeah, the BCS recommend that it's done in about, I think, 26 hours or so, but we can always tweak it and make it suit our schedules for that.
Yeah. So just to make you guys see, I mean, he's just trying to put together 26 hours of training into this few hours. So indeed, it's a lot to take in. The slide there, and like I keep repeating over and over, the goal of this session is really is just for us to say that you learn a number of these things. We created a Google Classroom. I've pasted that link to the Google Classroom now for business analysis. So the different tracks I've had this. So like the slide will be, you all will be gracious to give us the slide to put in there. You can go into repair. And if you have questions, you can still ask questions there. And the idea is that many of the things that I talked about will give you a framework to say, okay, I want to learn more about these things. You probably want to research it and things like that. You might be looking to say, hey, I'm interested in that, writing that exam of that BCS foundation and business analysis, and you talk about, and Yaws does that as well to give you the training and everything, get you ready to go write the exam. So something that you might be interested in, you can connect to them on LinkedIn and ask about it and say, hey, I'm interested in this, and they could tell you, discuss with you the details around getting that done. So if you want to self-learn a lot of all this content, you need to there's a lot of materials that you need to buy books as well too. I know that most of the BCS, Foundation BCS and Business Analysis is based on, I don't know if it's still the 3rd edition. Are we still on the 3rd edition?
The fourth edition is out. The 4th edition is out, but
the 4th edition is out now. Okay. There's this. So the title of the book is just Business Analysis. I thought they would call it something.
It's just BCS business analysis.
Business analysis from the BCS. And as you said, 4th edition for that is out. It just pretty much many of all those content are within that as well. And you also mentioned that in getting certification, there is also the IIBA. The IIBA, where you can get your CBAP, Chartered Business Analysis Professional. The IIBA has another material called the BABOK, and which stands for Business Analysis Body of Knowledge. That also contains a lot of related materials with what Yaws has presented today as well too. So these are reference materials to know more. But not to scare you, it's not as if you must know everything before you can be a business analyst. I mean, people who have been business analysts for 5 years are still learning one thing or the other. So, and you don't necessarily work with every tool and every technique that is stated. So it depends on the circumstance. I mean, I've worked as business analyst for some years before I even took any formal, not even like a formal self-training, so to say, even around it. So don't sometimes be scared saying, hey, how many years will it take me to understand all this before I can do this? Because business analysis is so broad, because it's so broad, sometimes there's so many things you, what was I going to say now? Because it's so broad, depending on the role you get, there are different things that might be your own focus area, so to say. Anyway, I start another class on business analysis today. You guys should get on the Google Classroom. You have the slide, you have access to this recording, ask more questions, connect with you, you can ask them questions, you can ask me questions to help you with materials where you can do some further study on. So that's it. If there is no other question, I will say that, guys, for those of you within the internship program, please get on your work that you need to do for this week, and please reach out to me with your questions concerning what you need to do this week. Friday is almost here, where we need to show something that we've done towards whatever we've been assigned for this week. So thank you very much, everybody. Keep studying, don't stop learning, and that's the way forward.
Yes.
The way to earn more is to learn more.
Yes, that's it.
All right. And thank you once again, Yaws. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
All right. Bye.